What will be or what is the difference between a private practice and an in-house legal counsel?
Just in very, very simple terms, I think in private practice, just the meaning of what this even means. In private practice, lawyers work for law firms, typically managing client portfolios and billing by the hour.
Let's say, for instance, if I'm a private practitioner, I move to, or if I'm planning to become in-house counsel, what would be my motivation?
This is not a cookie cutter switch. Everyone's professional journey is unique and distinct. And
Now, let's say, for instance, you have practiced both, or you have, I should say, so you have experienced both, being a private practitioner and, now a general counsel. Now, what challenges did you face?
This question is, it depends. It depends on what sort of an environment you have come from and what sort of an environment are you going into.
Now, when you were transitioning, from your role, now, did you think about, or did you ever feel that, there would be certain skill sets, that you might need or you would need?
Everything is very different. The role is very different. So naturally, the skill set required also are slightly different. I don't think that there can be any compromising as far as that is concerned.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's session of Let's Talk. Today we have Unnati Patel with us. The topic of today's discussion is going to be transition to in-house legal from private practice. So to discuss more on this, we have Unnati Patel. She is a law graduate from Symbiosis, Pune. And currently, she is working as a Group General Counsel at Parksons Packaging Limited. Now, to talk about Parksons, now they are India's leading packaging solutions provider, where she plays a pivotal role at a company backed by Warburg Pincus. Now, this is one of the world's top private equity firm. And Unnati, I'll talk to her about it. Let's talk to her how her legal journey has been, what all has she done so far, how did she get into Parksons, and then, what has she done, Unnati, to start with you, a warm welcome. And first of all, thank you for being with us over here.
Yeah, hi Ajay. Thank you so much. That was a very kind introduction, and I'm very happy to be here today. So just a little bit more on my professional journey
Yeah,
and why that's relevant to the topic at hand.
right.
So I have personally, worked at a law firm for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
I started off my legal career at a boutique law firm called Platinum Partners, where I spent 7 years straight out of law school. And we basically focused on mergers and acquisitions, private equity. We worked very closely with Freshfields, which is, the Magic Circle law firm headquartered out of London. And so, having done that for 7 years, and in fact, a brief stint at another law firm, SAM, Shardul Amachan Mangal Das, I decided to make the switch to in-house legal by accepting the position at Parksons Packaging, which is my current role. So I've spent 3 years now as head legal at Parksons. And so I feel like I've experienced both sides of, private practice as well as in-house legal. So I thought, I think it would be interesting to share my experience and sort of my insights, because I think this is something that's very relevant today. I, keep getting messages, requests from even people I know, strangers on LinkedIn about, how has the transition been, what things to keep in mind. So, looking forward to this chat and the topic.
Wonderful, wonderful, Unnati. And I believe that you have recently, you have done some master's program at the Harvard Law School as well. Could you please tell me more about it?
Sure. So this isn't a master's program. It was just an executive education course
Okay.
at Harvard Law School. So the topic of basically the program was leadership in corporate counsel. So it was a specialized course that is tailor-made for in-house legal counsels. So they have Harvard Law School has different courses for lawyers who work at law firms, and this is a different, distinct course that is tailor-made for in-house counsels. So
Wonderful.
it was a fabulous experience because the curriculum was very relevant to what I do as general counsel of a large packaging company.
That's
And
nice.
it was amazing to network with legal heads of, top companies from all over the world. And of course, the cherry on top was, the professors. There's a reason why Harvard is what it is. I just think the system of education, the way they teach you, was very thrilling. And it was a very brief course. It was just a few days, but I felt like I learned so much, and would definitely recommend it to anybody who's working as an in-house legal counsel.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. So, you are among the people who are aware that, they should be investing in themselves. And, it's really nice to talk to people who actually invest time, money, in themselves. They know how to, advance their career. They know about what, how the trends are changing these days, how things are moving at a rapid pace. It's actually very nice. It's actually nice to talk to such people. So,
Thank you.
going with your experience, taking this conversation further from here and looking at your wealth of experience and the deep insight, now I'm sure, that you will have a lot of insight, that you can actually offer today, on the topic that we are discussing, to let the viewers know again that we are discussing about transition to in-house from a private practice. So, I'm sure a lot of people, to be precise, a lot of advocates, a lot of lawyers would be looking at it, if they are into private practice and if they want to move to in-house, your journey, your thought process, your experience would be of great help to them. I'm sure of that. So
Yeah, yeah,
to
no.
to start, from here, if I'll ask you, generally, in your opinion, what will be or what is the difference between a private practice and an in-house legal counsel? Just for the viewers to know the
Um,
difference between both.
Yeah, sure, sure. So that's actually a good introduction to the topic, because I think just in very, very simple terms, I think in private practice, just the meaning of what this even means. In private practice, lawyers work for law firms, typically managing client portfolios and billing by the hour. Whereas in-house lawyers, on the other hand, they work as employees of a corporation or an organization, and they provide legal counsel on internal matters. So the skills and responsibilities, for both these types of law are quite different, and each setting, has a different set of requirements. So I think that's the basic difference between the two.
Right. So now getting with what you're saying, now if I would take the same question a little further, let's say for instance, if I'm a private practitioner, I move to, or if I'm planning to, move to become in-house counsel, what would be my motivation? Something which will or which can motivate me, or maybe as an individual practitioner to, become an in-house counsel.
So, to answer that, first of all, I think before I jump into this, I'd like to set some context that, this is not a cookie cutter switch. And there's no one size fits all. I think everyone's professional journey is unique and distinct. And, each lawyer's motivations and career goals are different. So I think one has to choose what works for them. That being said, I think a lot of the reasons why lawyers leave private practice for in-house roles could be numerous. I think starting with the most obvious one is work-life balance. So, in-house roles often offer more regular hours and less pressure to bill extensive hours, which is, I think, a problem today with a lot of law firms. The kind of stress levels, the working hours, all of that. So I think in-house offers a lot more structure to the kind of work that you do.
Okay.
Another reason could be, your desire for a more business-oriented strategic role. So now this again goes to the role that in-house lawyers play in the company. So they're often involved in decision-making processes and more directly contribute to the business's success. Versus, I think, in private practice, you're more of an external advisor, just advising clients on what they should do, how they should do it, all of that. You're not as close to the actual implementation of those decisions, which is an opportunity that you
Right.
get when you're in-house counsel. I think another reason, and this is one of the reasons for me personally as well, was professional development. Many lawyers are looking for new challenges or want to move away from the billing-driven environment of law firms. You want to challenge yourself in a different setting, different working style. I think beyond a point, when you spend a lot of time in law firms, a lot of it is more of the same type of work, the same nature of work. Whereas professional development in a company could look very different. So if you're up
Okay.
to the challenge. And I think lastly, and I think this is one of the most underrated reasons that is often overlooked, is a variety in work. So in-house roles tend to offer a broader range of legal issues to address, from contracts to compliance, to corporate governance, risk management. There's a saying, you have to be a jack of all trades, or, if you're an in-house counsel. Whereas I think in law firms, what happens is you tend to be a bit super specialized. I mean, of course, there are exceptions. You have general corporate where you do a little bit of everything, but you tend to be more focused on a particular area of law. Whereas in-house, I think the variety is a lot more. So I think these are some of the main points that, one can consider whether if, these factors are relevant. And I think generally these are the reasons why people transition from private practice to in-house roles.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And, in fact, you have answered my very next question, which I would have asked you, to explain the difference between an in-house and, a private practitioner. So in your explanation, you have almost answered, to it, but yes,
Yeah, no, but going into slightly more deeper into this, I think I've already given everyone a flavor on
right.
what are the main differences, but jumping more into the day-to-day work, between private practice and in-house legal. I think I read this somewhere, and it's very, very relevant that even though in-house legal and private practice are part of the same profession, because end of the day, it's the legal profession in both the cases.
Right.
They're two very different roles. So like a good lawyer bills hours, whereas a good in-house lawyer saves them. A good lawyer solves legal problems, but a good in-house lawyer prevents them to begin with. A good lawyer
Bingo.
masters legal theory, but a good in-house lawyer translates that into business strategy. So what I'm trying to say is in-house success isn't just about legal brilliance, it's about business impact. So if you're someone who's new to in-house, or if you're someone who's looking to eventually make the switch to be in-house, you have to understand that business cannot be risk-free. It's always a balancing act. You have to be the sort of in-house department that says yes to a business and solves the problem and creates solutions, instead of just saying no and finding ways to say, sorry, this is too risky, you can't do this. Because
Right.
now you're no longer a legal advisor on the sideline, which is what private practice is. You're sort of somewhere sitting on the side, just directing your clients on, okay, this is what the law says, and this is what you can do, and that's where your role ends. But that's not the case with in-house counsel.
That's
You're
right.
very much part of the game.
Right, right, right. So you feel more involved with the organization that you're working with, where people are listening to
Absolutely.
you, you are
You're
deciding
part
on
of the
their behalf,
organization.
you're taking decisions on their behalf, you're guiding them as to what needs to be done, how it has to be done, maybe the timeline involved in it, the risk involved in it. Being a
Yeah.
private practitioner, maybe all these things might not be possible, and
Yeah,
the
that's
very
true.
good point said that you said, work-life balance, in today's time, we all look forward to it. And that's a very valid point that you brought forward. Now
Yeah.
let's say, for instance, you have practiced both, or you have, I should say, so you have experienced both, being a private practitioner and now a general counsel. Now, what challenges did you face, or like you felt that you might face them in the future, and you have actually you faced them, you overcome them? So if I'll ask you, those might be the hard times of your life. You might not want to remember them again, but maybe for the viewers, they should be aware of the kind of challenges they might also face if they're looking forward to come to the level of success that currently you are at.
Sure. So, Ajay, again, this is I know this sounds like a very lawyer type answer, but, because lawyers used to, they love to use the term, it depends. But unfortunately, that is really the answer to this question is it depends. It depends on what sort of an environment you have come from and what sort of an environment are you going into. So
Okay.
again, like even law firms and in-house legal roles, every company is different. So one cannot really generalize and with the same brush paint over all how about how all in-house roles are, because each one is different. But generally, when a lawyer who has worked from in a law firm is making a switch to in-house legal, I think the biggest change is adapting to new pace and new environment. Because, like I said, I think just the whole setting in which you're operating is totally different. In a law firm, you have multiple clients. Like every matter that you do, the client is different, the role is different. Whereas in in-house legal, you have just one client, the company that you work for. So basically, the pace, the environment is very different in this setting. So sometimes private practice lawyers may find it hard to adjust to a less structured, more team-oriented nature of in-house work. And in hand with that is basically your relationship with your clients and stakeholders. So obviously, as an in-house legal counsel, you have to learn to manage relationships with internal stakeholders instead of external clients. So
Right.
this can be a big shift for lawyers who are used to a more client-facing role. So the kind of interaction, the kind of relationship building, the kind of servicing is very different in both the cases. And another thing is business risk management. Again, I'm going back to the point of risk and how to manage that, because as an in-house lawyer, every time you're giving legal advice or you're working on something, you're not just looking at it from a legal lens. That is a given. I mean, obviously, you're the
Yes,
one
yes.
with a legal degree, so you have to give legal advice, but you also have to look at it from a business risk management perspective. How risky is this for business? What can we do to reduce the risk? You try to preempt what could go wrong, in the organization. How do you solve for that? So there are different, very different factors that have to be kept in mind when you're giving legal advice as an in-house lawyer versus, say, someone who works in a law firm and who's just giving a bit generalist advice on what the law states and stuff that's happening generally, what is it happening in the market. So I think in that sense, you have to really tailor the way you look at things. And last but not the least, I would say time management. So I think in-house lawyers don't have to keep a track of billing, obviously, because we're not billing clients here, you're working in
Yes.
the company. But at the same time, you have to juggle a lot of responsibilities. You're, like I said, you're multitasking, you're doing compliance, you're doing corporate governance, risk management. You may potentially have fewer resources than, private practice teams. So you kind of just running the show, all by yourself and making sure the job is done.
Right.
Whereas I think in a law firm, everything is very, I mean, we used to laugh about this when we were at firms. Like, even if we get a client call which lasts 3 minutes, we had to input that, in our billing system that, okay, spend 3 minutes on a client call. So
Okay.
I just think that when you look at things, the way you operate is very different
Okay.
in both cases.
Nice. Thank you, Nati. Thank you for letting me know about this. Now, I have the basic idea. I'm getting a basic crux of it. What exactly or what is the difference, pros and cons of both the things. Now, when you were transitioning, from your role. Now, did you think about, or did you ever feel that there would be certain skill sets that you might need or you would need, in order to become from an individual to an in-house counsel. So any kind of special skill set that a person should possess or he should acquire, maybe by studying something extra or by meeting different
So
people.
yeah, no, that's a good question actually, because I think people just assume that if you're a lawyer, you can just do everything. But that's
Right.
actually a very relevant question because, like I said, the environment, everything is very different. The role is very different. So naturally, the skill set required also are slightly different.
Yes.
So I think obviously it goes without saying your legal skills have to be spot on. I mean, I don't think that there can be any compromising as far as that is concerned. Your legal expertise, especially in the area in which you're operating, you have to have industry knowledge. You should be updated on the latest developments in the law. what is happening in the industry, all of that. You'll be hands-on with your contracts, policies, compliances, everything. I think that is obviously a basic. But additionally, I think business acumen is something that's very essential and something that will prove to be invaluable for an in-house counsel. Because in-house roles require greater understanding of the business environment, financial considerations, how legal decisions affect the bottom line. So again, I think this ties in with the earlier a bit about how your role as an in-house counsel isn't just to give legal advice. You've got to think 3 steps ahead. You have to preempt, how is this decision going to play out? What could go wrong? So, having a business acumen is definitely helpful, as far as that is concerned. And last but not the least, I think soft skills and emotional intelligence. In a company, you have to deal with so many different stakeholders across all departments, across all levels, from, senior management to, even relatively low level people. And for that, you have to be fabulous at communication. You have to know the art of negotiation, and you have to basically collaborate and work as a team, because you're essentially, at the end of the day, you're all part of the same company.
Right.
You may be working in the legal department, you could be advising sales and marketing on a contract, you could be helping HR with some sort of an employee dispute. There could be numerous examples. So
Right.
for all of that, you have to think of it as one team, and how do we collaborate, how do you get the job done? So I think in-house lawyers need to be able to explain the legal issues in a way that is understandable and actionable for non-legal stakeholders. Because if I go into technical, this is what the law says, and if I, send very complicated emails with legal provisions, that's not helpful. No, in a company, that's not going to fly, because you're dealing with your clients, and your counterparts are just laymen. They don't understand all of this. So
Right.
you have
Right.
to
Right.
know the art of how to communicate, how to get the point across, in a simple, concise way, and in a way that can get the job done. So I think these are the skills that one needs, as far as in-house legal is concerned. Whereas you don't necessarily need all of this in private practice, because in private practice things work very differently.
Right. I agree
So
with you on that. Yes. So did you acquire all these skills, or you had that inbuilt business acumen, soft skills, looking at you, I can certainly make out that, you would have been nice to people, even when you were doing a private practice. But if I talk about business
uh,
acumen, or maybe that emotional connect with others, you said rightly, not everyone will understand the legal language or the legal terminology, you know.
yeah, so I think so again, it's a mixed bag. I think when you're working in a law firm, the clients that you deal with could be very, very diverse. So very often you deal with in-house legal counsel only as your client. So then the approach you take over there is very different. Say if I'm a lawyer in a law firm and I'm giving legal advice to another lawyer who is basically just, working in the legal department of a company, the way I will handle that will be very different from, say, when you're, dealing with someone who's not a lawyer. Even it could be like a private equity professional or an investment banker or a promoter of a company. So I think obviously the approach will change depending on a case-to-case basis, depending on the matter at hand. So I'm not trying to say that private practice lawyers don't need to have these skills, or, of course, even they need an emotional intelligence. But I think in-house, that is just an absolute must because of the environment that you're in and the nature of the job. Even in terms of personality, I think you have to be approachable. You have to, basically an in-house legal advisor, come supporter, come business partner. I would put it that way. Not even, like I would like to think that my stakeholders look at me and think of me as, someone who's going to collaborate with them on getting the job done. So I think that's again a difference in the way perception comes into the picture, your role changes, all of that.
Right. I guess maybe the approach with which, an individual will, progress in that case, or how they'll approach things, the situations, Because if you're dealing with the employees, dealing with them is completely different. When you're dealing with outsiders, outside legal firms, it's completely different. Managing contracts, negotiating things. The approach, yes, the
Yeah.
approach does make a lot of difference. So, if I'll ask you, to conclude this session, if I'll ask you, that, you have been working with this organization as in-house counsel, I guess, for 3 years now, maybe more than that.
Yes, 3 years, a little over 3 years.
Yeah. So, and how long did you practice as a private practitioner?
7 years.
Oh, long time. So if I'll ask you to summarize both, differentiate or summarize both, in your opinion, I can understand, that time factor, that you can give to your friends, families, of course, that is the good thing, a good part. But apart from that, if I will ask you, which role do you feel, you're enjoying more as a private practitioner, you enjoyed more, where you had no one to report to, maybe, you were your own boss, your own time, waking up as per your convenience, going back home as per your convenience, going to work as per your convenience, I would say. And over here as an in-house counsel, where you have a set time frame, maybe let's say 9 to 5 or 10 to 7, or depending upon your workflow. So if I would summarize, or if I'll ask you for your conclusion, like which do you feel is much better, or which phase of your life are you enjoying more, or you enjoyed more?
Oh, so that's
Tough one.
uh, yeah, that's tough. It's a tough question because I think personally for me, I've truly enjoyed both the phases, and I'm obviously still very much practicing as in-house counsel. So this journey continues. And but I think my days in private practice are obviously very special, very close to my heart. I've worked very hard. I was a young lawyer, graduated fresh out of law school, enthusiastic and passionate about the law. And, I was fortunate enough to work at, a boutique firm, which was like a family and where we did some great work. And I think those relationships that I built during those 7 years have really framed me and, molded me into the lawyer that I am today. And I'm forever grateful for that. I was trained as a lawyer, in private practice, and I feel like that's where I learned the ropes of the profession, learned, how to conduct oneself, what is ethical, what is not ethical, even the softer skills for that matter. But at the same time, and again, these are just my personal views. This is my journey. This is what worked for me. Towards the end of my 7 year stint, I personally felt very burnt out because I used to work very, very tough hours, extremely tough hours with, really no work-life balance. And, I was forever working on holiday, late nights, pulling all-nighters in the office, working on leave. So somewhere I think it took a toll on me mentally and physically because I think by the end of it, I had some health issues as well. So it was clear to me that, this is not sustainable for me. Again, I'm not saying there's anything right or wrong here. I think every lawyer has their own journey and they have to choose what works for them.
Right.
So these views are strictly my own. And for me, I felt that, I wasn't enjoying it anymore. So I took a break. And, for me, I think personally, in-house legal was something that was always on the cards. I was always very keen to explore what this has to offer, how I'm going to fit in, how I would do in this role. And I was fortunate enough to have this opportunity come my way where I got head legal at this brilliant company, Parksons Packaging, where I continue to do mergers and acquisitions because that's really my core expertise. And I feel very passionately about M&A. So the role had a lot of M&A. So that's why I accepted it, transitioned to in-house legal. And it's been 3 years so far. And I love it. I feel like I thrive in this environment. And I've been doing very good work. We're the largest packaging company in India, and we've done 3 acquisitions in 18 months, which is
That's
no other
great.
packaging company has done these many
That's really
acquisitions.
wonderful.
So I'm doing really good work. Like I still get to do what I enjoy. At the same time, I feel like I have more work-life balance. And I love the variety of work, like I said earlier, like it's a total mixed bag. As head legal, I do everything from contracts, M&A, compliance, intellectual property, real estate. So, nothing is boring. Like every day when I come into work, it's like a new day, and I have no idea what the day is going to entail. So I think that's again a part of my job that I love, that it's always like changing and growing. So yeah, that's my journey, and this is what has worked for me. And but like I said, there's no straight jacket formula. I think lawyers have to see where they are in their professional journey. I if anyone's asking me for advice, I would always recommend that it's good to try your hand at private practice for a bit, because I think the training and the exposure that you get over there is unparalleled. So you hone your skills as a lawyer over there, and then you can always transition into in-house to
Right.
see if
You can
that's
always
working
switch to
out.
it.
Yeah, and if in-house doesn't work for you, you can always go back to working in a law firm. I mean, there's
Right.
no there's it's not written anywhere that if you quit a law firm and move in-house, you can never go back to a law firm.
That's
I
true. I
mean,
agree.
we have in fact, there's an example of Mr. Shubha Mandal that comes to mind. He was a very reputed partner at AZB, worked there for 15 years, and then he joined as Group General Counsel at Tata Sons, and he was there
Right.
for about 4 years, and then he left Tata and he founded his own law firm, Anagram Partners. So that's just one example. I'm sure there are so many others out there,
I'm
where
sure there
you
would
can
be.
you can always dabble between the two, see what works for you, and never say never.
That's true. Change is the only thing constant. So
Yeah.
people should be looking forward to it. Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you, for your time today that you have given us. To conclude the
Thank
session,
you.
any message that you want to give to our viewers? Quick two-liner.
Um, Nothing really. I think just if you're a lawyer and you're considering this, whether in-house legal is for you or it's not for you, I think just give it a shot. And like I said, nothing is final. You can always, if it doesn't work out for you, or if you're not happy or you don't feel challenged enough, you can always go back to working in a law firm. But give it a shot. I mean, it's working very well for me. I'm loving it. So you never know, you could be one decision away from changing your life.
True, true, true. I agree with you, ma'am. It was very nice talking to you today. I'm sure our viewers would get a very fair idea, if anyone or if they are planning to, try new juniors, they're trying to, move, explore new fields. I'm sure by looking at your video, they'll get a very fair or very good idea as to, what they can look forward to, how they can proceed further. And I want to thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for sparing your time. Thank you for
Thank
coming on the
you.
show. And
No,
thank you
it
for
was a
being my
pleasure.
guest.
Really enjoyed this conversation with you, Ajay.
Definitely, ma'am. Looking forward for more such conversations.
Yeah, thank you.
All
Bye.
right, Miss Patel. Take care.